In the headlines, more legal troubles for suspended CBN governor as the government prepares fresh allegations. A sigh of relief for Adamawa community where food commodities costs half the price. Presidency says no plan to increase fuel price across the country. And on the foreign scene, more than a dozen Nigerian troops killed in attack near Mali border. Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to the news update on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. We start in Abuja as the suspended Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele will be arraigned on Thursday before a Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja for an alleged 6.9 billion naira procurement fraud. Emefiele will be arraigned alongside a female CBN employee, Saadatu Yaro, and her company, April 1616 Investment Limited, on 20-count charges of procurement fraud, conspiracy, and conferring corrupt advantages on his associates. Emefiele was suspended from office on June 9th and has been in detention since then. He was accused of conferring corrupt advantages on Yaro, a director in April, and her company, April 1616 Investment Limited. The offense is contrary to Section 19 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act of 2000. And the charges signed by the Director of Public Prosecutions at the Federal Ministry of Justice, Muhammad Abubakar Emefiele, and two others were alleged to have bought a fleet of over 98 exotic cars and armored vehicles valued at 6.9 billion naira. Some of the vehicles bought between 2018 and 2020 included 84 Toyota Hilux vehicles, 10 armored Mercedes-Benz buses, 3 Toyota Land Cruisers, and 1 Toyota Avalon sedan. The federal government further accused Emefiele of conspiracy to confer corrupt advantage on the second defendant, contrary to Sections 26C and 19 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act of 2000 and punishable under Section 19 of the same Act. The suspended governor was also accused of awarding a contract for the supply of another Toyota Land Cruiser V8 for 77.05 million naira to the third defendant back in 2018. Now, the federal government had on Tuesday sought to drop illegal possession of firearms charges it preferred against the suspended CBN governor before Justice Nicholas Owebo of the Federal High Court in Lagos. Now, as part of efforts to address the struggle faced by many families to feed, residents of Jabore, a community in Giri local government area of Adamawa State, are now buying cereal at half the market price. The philanthropic gesture is aimed at cushioning the effects of subsidy removal on petrol and the rising inflation across Nigeria on many families. Silas Lewan reports from Adamawa.
By breadwinners to feed their families started getting worse in May this year, shortly after President Tinubu in his inaugural address declared that fuel subsidy was gone. A businessman, Shaibu Idris, who says he is feeling the hardship of the less privileged, decided to sell his foodstuff at a subsidized rate, believing it will go a long way toward reducing the difficulties faced by households.
We are rolling out these palliative measures to seek Allah's favor only. We are buying this cassava at the rate of 700 and sell at 350 naira. Pasta at the rate of 450 and sell it for 250 naira. We are also buying rice at the market price of 1,500 and give it out at 900 per measures.
Beneficiaries say the initiative has since its first day started putting smiles on their faces. They call on governments and other well-to-do individuals to emulate the gesture.
Yanzu rayuwar da ake ciki wani gashi an saukar da farashin ma yanzu haka babu kuɗin da zai siya.
There are many that can't afford the foodstuff at this cheap price. They are empty-handed. Our well-to-do and government personalities should help the poor. The way this man is supporting us.
Mudu uku kam babu shi. Na auna masara, na kai injin jiya wanda aka auna da yamma mun kai injin mudu 10 yanzu da safen nan naje na samu an sata masaran.
Yesterday, I bought maize and took it from Merlin. It was stolen this morning. Government should not let the masses down.
Ya kamata gwamnati ta dubi talakawa da idon rahama don abun da ake cikin nan.
However, an eyewitness, Haruna Audu, alleged that while selling of the subsidized foodstuff was ongoing, some individuals were buying the cheap foodstuff to sell them at a higher price, not far from the venue.
If you take this food to your house and feed your kids or your neighbor, eat it, or to your neighbor, God will reward you. When you are helping people, but some are diverting what you are giving, you will feel discouraged.
With these developments, the neighborhood is not just joyous, but hopeful that the action will inspire more businesses to follow suit. Salis Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
Such a commendable gesture. In other news, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has given assurances that the prices of PMS, also known as petrol, will not increase despite challenges in the foreign exchange market in the country. A special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajude Ngilale, revealed this to newsmen at the State House in Abuja on Tuesday. According to him, the president believes the current pricing can be maintained without reversing the Nigeria's deregulation policy across board. Kehinde Amodu reports.
The consolidated financial statements of the Central Bank of Nigeria have revealed a debt of $7.5 billion to American banks JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, and a further $6.3 billion owed in foreign currency in the financial year ended December 2022. The debt profile could set the country's credit rating on a free fall, but has also left Nigeria with insufficient funds in the coffers to defend the naira against the dollar. Independent petroleum marketers are forced to source foreign exchange from the black market and are pushing for an increase in pump prices of PMS. But President Tinubu believes that adjustments can still be made by swiftly cleaning up existing inefficiencies within the midstream and downstream petroleum sector.
Mr. President wishes to assure Nigerians, following the announcement by the NNPC Limited just yesterday, that there will be no increase in the pump price of petroleum motor spirit anywhere in the country. We repeat, the President affirms that there will be no increase in the pump price of petroleum motor spirit. Is going to be available to everybody, all right, is the presidential daily brief. This is what the NNPC supplies to the president directly for his personal viewing on a morning-by-morning basis. And he's releasing it to the public this morning for the sake of full disclosure and because he wants Nigerians to ensure that there's no need for panic at this time. We have enough fuel to supply the country. The country is wet with products and it will continue to be so.
Does this mean fuel subsidy will be reversed as it was done recently in Kenya? Apparently not, as President Tinubu believes pump prices can be maintained without jettisoning subsidy.
We also wish to affirm that the President is determined to maintain competitive tension within all subsectors of the petroleum industry. He is determined to ensure that our policy drawn up as well as policy implemented follows the cue that there will not be any single one entity dominating the market.
The President's reluctance to increase cost of fuel is obviously in response to hardships on Nigerians occasioned by the last hike in the value of PMS and the threats by organized labor to shut the country down if prices are increased further. From State House Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
And in politics, former Governor of Rivers State and Minister Designate Nyesom Wike on Tuesday paid a visit to the National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje in Abuja. Wike, a member of the People's Democratic Party, but who worked against the presidential candidate of the party, Atiku Abubakar, in the just concluded 2023 presidential elections, has repeatedly denied claims that he's joining the ruling APC. The Senate had last Monday confirmed the nomination of Wike alongside 44 others as ministers designate. Now, the federal government has dissolved the Advertising Standard Panel due to its endorsement of billboards accused of attempting to manipulate the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal with the slogan, "All Eyes on the Judiciary." The Director General of the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, Dr. Olalekan Fadolapo, conveyed the dissolution of the panel through a statement issued on Tuesday. The ASP, a statutory panel within the council, is tasked with ensuring that advertisements adhere to the prevailing laws of the Federation and the Code of Ethics for Advertising Professionals. The Director General says the council will set up a committee to investigate the circumstances leading to the, quote, erroneous approval of one of the concepts of the advertisement and in the breach of the vetting guidelines. A statement says the Advertising Standards Panel Secretariat's failure to diligently exercise its function as the gatekeeper of advertisement content and marketing communications has been dissolved with immediate effect. Elsewhere, suspected terrorists on Tuesday invaded Jambako communities in Zamfara State and abducted an unspecified number of residents. A resident of the community, Sani Abubakar, told Trust TV that the suspected terrorists stormed the troubled community at night. A local narrated that the terrorists, however, did not fire gunshots throughout their operations. Now, Trust TV News gathered that an unspecified number of residents, who were mostly women and children, were whisked away by the suspected kidnappers to an unknown destination. Meanwhile, the Zamfara State Governor, Dauda Lawal, has called for more military presence and intervention to tackle insecurity across the state. The governor made the call when he received the Chief of Naval Staff of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tarid Lagbaja, at the Government House in Gusau. A statement by the governor's spokesperson, Suleiman Idris, says that the Army Chief had a very lengthy discussion with the governor on how to improve synergy and foster ways to combat the menace of banditry across Zamfara State. Lieutenant General Lagbaja assured the governor that in the days to come, there would be an aggressive military operation across Zamfara State. Elsewhere, residents of Jama'ari Pandisho in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State say they are living in palpable fear following the abduction of an Islamic cleric, Abubakar Musa, by suspected kidnappers. According to the community, the kidnappers stormed the area last week, abducting Abubakar Musa, his wife, son, and a newborn baby. Trust TV's Bello Musa visited the community along Kaduna Zaria Road and reports that the community is coming to terms with the devastating abduction of the cleric. His report.
Jama'ar Pandisho is a community neighboring Marabanjas in the outskirts of the Kaduna metropolis. Abubakar Musa just relocated from Kawa in the metropolis to the community after building his own house. Aliyu Abdullahi is a neighbor to Abubakar Musa, and he is the bricklayer that helped build the house for the victim. He narrates how the ugly incident happened. It happened on Monday about 12:30 a.m. The loud bang on his wall woke us all. He pleaded with them to leave him, but they continued hitting the wall. And so he opened the door, and they asked Malam Abubakar and his family to go with them, but he begged them to leave his wife, who just had a baby, so that they can take him and his son. After leaving the house of Malam Abubakar, they went and broke the shop of his neighbor and abducted all of them. They operated while it was raining for almost 2 hours, and they did not fire a single shot during the operation. The house has been deserted since the abduction of the owner. These animals he looks after are obviously missing him. Although he could not come out to help his neighbor, but Abdullahi was able to spot the abductors while peeping through his window. We could not do anything to help him because I saw between 5 and 7 of them carrying rifles. He taught us Islamic and the Western education. We are still living in fear and devastated by his abduction. He says, due to financial constraints, Abubakar Musa had to spend about a decade before he could complete building his house in the small community outside Kaduna City. He labored and suffered before building his house, to the extent that he had to secure loan from people because I was the bricklayer who built the house, and still owing some debtors. We are pleading with the abductors to release them, especially his wife, who was even bleeding after delivery when they kidnapped her.
This is the residence of Malam Abubakar, who was abducted here by the suspected kidnappers, along his wife and his 10-year-old son, and also an infant of 7 hours after delivery. From Jama'are Pandisho in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State, Bella Musa reporting for Trust TV News.
You're watching the news update on Trust TV. Coming up ahead after the break, we take a look at awareness creation for immunization in children. We have details of this and many more stories coming up ahead after the break. Welcome back and thank you very much for staying with us on the news update on Trust TV. Here's a reminder of our top stories at this hour. More legal troubles for suspended CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele as the government prepares fresh allegations. A sigh of relief for Adamawa community where foodstuff is being sold at half the market price. Now, the need to amplify youth voices and forge opportunities for the youths for collaborative policy making that will promote the ideals of Nigerian youths was the focus of a dialogue in Abuja. The dialogue was part of activities commemorating the annual International Youth Day. Noel Sampson has more.
From time immemorial, the position and role of the Nigerian youths in the social, economic and political development of the country has been that of a prime mover. This is because the youths are vital instruments in repositioning the nation's economy, hence the need for youth leadership and development.
AYGF over the years has engaged in different systems, processes and strategies to facilitate youth development, from the point of working with government, ministries at state level, at federal level and even at local government level in many occasions to mainstream these development conversations, particularly around young people.
For instance, if by the year 2023, because of the unemployment nature in the country, that about 5,000 youths are to undergo training on fisheries, that is the Ministry of Agric, or on poultry, that is the Ministry of Agric, what we do, we make sure that we work in collaboration with them. The ministries of Agric will organize programs like that, by training our young people on how to go about doing the fishery or how to go about doing the poultry.
There's been quite a lot of interest around youth involvement, but I think this will continue to remain a dream if we don't take actionable steps for how we take this forward. And so we come here with an open mind. We didn't come here with any set agenda for what we want to come out of this conversation. We have deliberately and carefully selected the delegates in this event. These are youth leaders doing very well in their chosen fields of endeavor. So we want to hear from them what those policy constraints are.
The point we are making here is that they have struggled since independence to locate themselves within important structures for decision making, where they can contribute to decisions that affect their present and their future.
Some youths highlighted key areas they want the government to address in order to aid their leadership and development in the country.
The amount of protocol young people would have to go through to achieve certain things is so long that sometimes you get lethargic at some point and you just move. So it's to just make things easy, also to demystify the policies, because another problem I find particularly is that some policies are very, very encrypted to the point where you cannot even make sense out of it.
The government is not willing to give ears to the youth. So I feel like one of the most important things the government can do to help the youth is to actually pay attention to them and give opportunities for them to actually explore.
Youths play a vital role in nation building by bringing social reform within the country and determine the future of a nation. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, vaccine provision and awareness creation for the public has been identified as major boosters for immunization of children. The Director of Public Health in Nasarawa State Ministry of Health stated this while speaking on the effectiveness and sustainability of childhood immunization in the society. Abubakar Abdullahi sent in this report as presented from our studio.
The challenge of zero or missed doses in childhood immunization remains one of the key issues affecting effective immunization, as statistics say 22.7 million children are estimated to have zero or missed doses globally. Out of the figure, an estimated 3.1 million or 14% reside in Nigeria. People who fall in this category are often disadvantaged due to poverty, conflict and lack of access to basic health services, and remain vulnerable to vaccine-preventable diseases. To ensure the effectiveness and sustainability of childhood immunization, there is need for orientation and vaccines provisions at appropriate time and locations.
It does not make sense to only create awareness. You also need to also provide the vaccines. Because if I know about the vaccine and I come to the point of service delivery and the vaccines are not there, then it's a missed opportunity. So we also need to have the vaccines at the various service delivery points for our people, from primary, secondary and tertiary health facilities, particularly in the primary healthcare facilities. And then lastly, we need to have the healthcare providers that are skilled, that are knowledgeable and that are interested in providing these services. So if we can have these three covered, awareness, provision of the commodities and the healthcare workers, then we'll have been able to cover all the bases and make vaccines available to prevent and protect our children.
He explained that if vaccines are effective and sustained, it goes a long way in ensuring healthy children and while reducing the burden of medical expenses on parents.
Benefits are actually multifactorial, okay? So the very simple benefit is that children will not fall sick. So if you are vaccinated against measles, you will not get measles. If you are vaccinated against diphtheria, you will not get diphtheria. So if you don't get the disease, so your life is preserved, because some of these diseases are fatal. They can come with death. So your life is preserved. Secondly, the cost of treatment is also eliminated for you, because once you are vaccinated, you will not get the disease, and then of course treatment is you will not spend money to treat. So finances of the family is protected.
He maintained that regular childhood immunization also reduces the burden on health facilities in the community.
Two developments on the international scene now. At least 17 Nigerian soldiers have been killed in an attack suspected by an armed group near the border with Mali, according to a statement published late on Tuesday. A quote, detachment of Nigerian armed forces moving between Boni and Torodi was the victim of a terrorist ambush near the town of Kotugo, and he added that another 20 soldiers had been injured, with all of them being evacuated to Niamey, the Nigerian capital. More than 100 assailants were caught neutralized during the retreat by the soldiers, according to the army statement. In the last decade, the border area where central Mali, northern Burkina Faso and western Niger converge has become the epicenter of violence by armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS in the Sahel region. Anger at the bloodshed has fueled military takeovers in all three countries since 2020, with Niger Republic the latest to fall to a coup back in July 26, when President Mohamed Bazoum was ousted. Southeast Niger is also the target of armed groups crossing from northeastern Nigeria, the cradle of a campaign initiated by Boko Haram in 2010. Now, a week after wildfires ravaged Hawaii's resort town of Lahaina, search and rescue efforts on Maui Island continues, with officials saying that the death toll has risen to 106. State Governor Josh Green warned on Tuesday that the death toll from last week's inferno on the island of Maui, already the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century, would grow significantly, urging Hawaiians to gird for a number that could be 2 or 3 times the present level. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services deployed a team of coroners, pathologists and technicians, along with exam tables, X-ray units and other equipments to identify victims and process their remains. Officials say they had collected DNA samples from 41 people whose relatives were still missing. The island's police chief has said many of the bodies are so badly charred that they are unrecognizable. Such was the ferocity of the blaze. Well, that's it. You're up to date with the latest news stories at this hour. We'll be back later at 2 o'clock for more news. But for now, follow us across our social media platform for more content. And for more news, visit our website, trusttv.com. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for watching.